Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Erica. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reading an article for you all about longevity. Now I get tons of emails and questions about this. Lots of crew, telling me that they can't get longevity for XYZ reasons, and then I get yachts saying we'll only consider blah, blah, blah. Anyway, before I start waffling on about it, let me read my article. So get comfy and let's begin. So as long as I can remember, I've been told as a crew agent that I should be looking for longevity on a CV. Only recently I saw a Facebook post on the topic with various commenters agreeing that they'd only consider crew for their vessels if they can, quote, demonstrate longevity of 3 years plus on one yacht. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I no longer agree. I believe longevity is old news. Mic drop. Longevity should become a thing of the past. I hope I've got your attention. Are you clutching your pearls? Well, let me explain why and how we can make the industry a better place in the process. So during my research, I discovered many people do actually agree with me. The main catalyst for this shift in opinion was caused by the pandemic. Remember that? I try not to, but yeah. Back in a time before COVID, longevity was viewed as this mystical, mythical beast. And if you managed to slay it, then you were a very special person indeed. If you had 2 years plus on one boat, you were the prince who was foretold, the stuff of legend, etc. COVID brought with it pestilence and plague, and another horseman of the apocalypse, redundancy. Whilst land-based companies furloughed employees and shifted into working from home remote culture, the yachting industry rather unceremoniously dumped half of its crew and didn't really give much thought to the future. Unfortunately, many owners assumed they'd just be able to hire new crew when all this virus business had blown over. After all, they'd never had an issue hiring and firing in the past, had they? But lockdowns rolled on. Displaced crew sat at home waiting out the unknown. Then they took jobs locally or retrained. Those with exit plans brought them forward and declared now or never and left the industry. By the time yachts started to crew up again as the world reopened, they were faced with a bit of an issue. They had open arms to welcome back crew, but hang on a minute, where were they all? Turns out lots of them didn't really fancy yachting as a career anymore. Many had discovered an even more fabulous fairy tale called the work-life balance. They'd spent the last year or two working 9 to 5, having evenings and weekends off, seeing friends and family, not missing out on weddings, births, time with loved ones. And suddenly, that became more important than the yachting lifestyle and salary. COVID caused an awakening in the workforce. The crew who did return had high expectations, rotation, more leave, more money, and better conditions. And they weren't going to settle for less. Whilst waiting to find their unicorn jobs, many of these crew took temp jobs to keep earning. Some found they enjoyed short-term employment and never looked back, especially chefs. One explained, "It's the perfect scenario for me. I jump on for a trip, smash it, help earn us a good tip, and then I disappear for a rest before looking for the next gig. It's far better for my motivation than cooking for the same people for months or even years." A mate called Matt, names have been changed to protect the innocent, just spent 3 years on one boat with an abusive captain and told me it was the hardest 3 years of my life. He stayed because longevity. I got my tickets done, so at least I've come out with it with my chief mate 3000. Arguably, he's also come out of it with PTSD and learned how extensively not to captain. I mean, every experience is a learning opportunity. However, would he not be a better first officer if he'd worked with good seniors who trained and mentored him? Well, according to the industry, he's more employable than someone who's worked seasonal positions on different vessels, broadening their experience from working with various people in different environments. Also, what about seasonal jobs? Who's going to take those if it means crew who do can't be considered for any permanent jobs in the future? We also still have a crew shortage to deal with, as we didn't have the usual influx of green crew coming into the industry for 3 years. And that left us with a lack of sort of bosun second stew level crew, basically those who by now would have a good few years experience. Hence why all those jobs posted on job boards and social media insisting on must have at least 1 year's experience are still sat there. So experienced crew can be selective over which crew they join. And then if there's anything that isn't as promised or something's not quite right, why stay? Especially when there are other jobs out there. Which leads me to mental health. I know we never stop talking about it these days, but that's because it's a thing. The new generation don't stay in a job if they find it mentally damaging. This is prevalent across all industries, not just ours. Social media is full of content about putting ourselves first. This is the new normal, and for youngsters especially. The older generations are coming around a bit too. I mean, perhaps we're due a revolution or a revelation that we don't have to put up with bad conditions anymore. Don't get me wrong, if you have longevity, that's fantastic. Longevity is wonderful if you're in a safe and happy environment where you can grow and develop your skills and experience. But it's not worth going for if it's going to cost your mental health or your safety. I'd rather explain a couple of gaps in my CV to a potential employer, emphasising my high standards, than explain why I'm on anti-anxiety medication. Captain Angus pointed out, it's not fair for people to judge the greenies for lack of longevity either. When I was a nipper, I didn't know what I was doing. I just took every opportunity that was offered. New crew should be encouraged to try different jobs and then find out what they enjoy. Now, I've mentioned this before, but how about a crew training scheme? 2-month placements in different departments or yachts over a year, then they decide where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, what they enjoy. Or how about making all new crew work in each department for a day or two? Got a new decky? Get them on the interior, stick them in the galley. If everyone learns about all the roles on board, they'll have respect for other departments and the captain will have a more cohesive team. Anyway, I digress. Back to CVs. So if you're told your CV looks flighty or flaky, consider putting down a reason for leaving. This could just state, yacht sold, but it could be more serious. Captain Joe told me, I haven't been with a yacht longer than 4 years and it's not been through lack of trying. He listed why. Bankruptcy, owner died, yacht repossessed, owner's wife didn't like my wife, cut budgets, management company brought in their own guy, cheaper commercial crew, owner jailed for fraud, salaries got stopped, safety concerns ignored, abusive owner. Shall I go on? No, Joe, please stop. All valid reasons to explain why longevity isn't always possible to achieve. Captain Billy runs a 60-metre motor yacht. He said, I don't believe in longevity. After 2 years, you have nothing left to learn and get lazy, so you better move up in size or rank or both. I used to work a couple of years and then take a year out to study and enjoy life before looking again. So what if you were aboard a yacht for 10 years, but you were lazy for 8? Still, does that make you more employable? I'm not sure. Captain Chloe said, I joined a yacht in terrible condition. The engine and generator had never been serviced. Most of the bilge pumps were broken and the boat smelled like a swamp. Safety gear was out of date and even the tender was almost a write-off since it hadn't been maintained. The owner complained that I'd spent more on maintenance in 3 months than the last guy had in 3 years. I left. Captain Steve added, same for me. The previous captain waltzed onto a bigger command largely due to his excellent longevity of 7 years. The owner loved him as he kept costs low. However, we found serious structural corrosion throughout the vessel, which had been disguised instead of repaired. The boss was thoroughly displeased by the quote of €1 million to remedy this. The programme was axed and all crew lost their jobs. I don't think the other captain did. God. Anyway, could longevity actually breed complacency? Please don't shoot the messenger. I'm not saying all captains who have longevity are lazy. Far from it. I know these guys are in the minority. Right, these chaps are, I just said these, blah, blah, blah. I'm leaving that in. I know and work with dozens of fantastic captains and senior crew who have stayed with the same programme and owner for many years, and they're totally committed to always delivering excellence. My point is that we must be open to listening. So let's understand and empathise. There are always several sides to every story. So let's approach interviews with a more open mind. Or you might miss out on hiring a fantastic crew member who might even stay with you for the next 5 or 10 years. Engineer Harry feels very strongly about longevity, saying, it should never have been a thing in the first place. It's a prime example of how a few agents and captains have acted as the primary gatekeepers for jobs and have managed to gaslight the entire industry into believing it's a crucial aspect to consider when hiring. Wow, Mic drop much, Harry? Oof. Many say longevity demonstrates tenacity and resilience. Now, Harry started his maritime career on commercial vessels, in environments which, he said, anyone born post-2000 wouldn't tolerate. I'm talking racism, bigotry, homophobia, misogyny, utterly toxic. I stuck it out. I recognised it was more valuable to learn from it, stay true to my own ethics and morals, and gain that COC at the end as a ticket to a bigger world of opportunities. So for Harry, sticking it out when you have a goal, much like Matt, was worth it. He added, now I've got that ticket, I don't put up with that any longer, and I should never have had to. If that's what new crew experience in their early years, no wonder we're losing them. Many captains think experiences like this are character building, though. Another engineer, Graham, explained his lack of longevity to me. I changed jobs because I grew bored, whether because there was no longer a challenge or because I'd reached a dead end and couldn't move up, or because the attitude on board made it incredibly difficult for me to meet expectations and maintain my professional integrity. If an agent or captain doesn't appreciate that made me a better engineer, well, that sounds like a them problem, not a me problem. Good point, Graham. Well made. Engineer Aaron is also peeved at this situation. He explained, I have 2 decades at sea. I'm being told by agents who have no experience as seagoing crew that I need longevity. Commercial experience is overlooked and a surf-like willingness to be treated like dirt is expected just to get those years on the CV. One agency I know loves to push longevity but moves the goalpost when it suits, he says. Used to be a year, but when asking about a chief's job, I'm told they're expecting 3 to 5 now. I've joined yachts replacing one of their golden longevity boys, and I've run into absolute disasters in terms of quality of work, administration, morale in the ED, and perception of the engineers from other crew on board. Yikes. So we can deduce from our findings that engineers think longevity is a load of old tosh, and as one more pointed out, we have to move around regularly or we'll get left behind with lack of exposure to new technology. Plus, we need to log the right sea time on vessels of a certain size and power to keep our tickets valid. Very good point. So let's close with some final words from Captain Bob. For an industry that promotes itself as being forward-thinking, it overlooks a lot of negative behaviours and environments. Longevity is a harmful buzzword, and I would very much like people to recognise there are other ways to measure commitment to seafaring than unbroken years on one yacht. So there you have it. Longevity. Great if you can get it, but if you can't, it's not the end of the world. I hope you enjoyed that one. It was quite controversial, wasn't it? I enjoyed reading it. Badly in places, but thanks for your patience. As always, drop me your comments below. What do you think about longevity? Do you think it's a load of old nonsense? Have a good day.